Hello, thanks for making the time to join us this evening. My name is Michael. I'm the events coordinator and publicist at Annie Bloom's Books. For those of you who aren't familiar with the store, we're admitting another person. Hello, welcome as you're joining us. Just saying that my name is Michael. I'm the events coordinator at Annie Bloom's Books. We're located in Southwest Portland, Oregon, in the heart of Multnomah Village, where we've been around for 43 years now. We're open on weekdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and weekends from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Our website is always open. You can shop at annieblooms.com day and night. We offer curbside pickup, in-store pickup, local delivery, a couple of different shipping options. I'm going to put into the chat the URL for tonight's event where you can buy both poets' books. We'd really appreciate it. I think they're both signed, right? Mimi, did you drop off signed copies as well?
I did.
Yeah, signed copies of the books, Annie Bloom's. Let me tell you about some great events we've got coming up. On Tuesday, the 26th of April at 7 p.m., local mystery author Emmeline Duncan will be reading from her brand new book that comes out that day, Double Shot Death. It's the second cozy mystery novel about an amateur sleuth who runs a coffee cart in Portland. On Thursday, May 5th, also at 7 p.m., Laura Stanfill, who's the publisher behind Forest Avenue Books, has her debut novel coming out, Singing Lessons for the Stylish Canary. It's a historical novel set in 19th century France. I'm just going to be reading with a fellow Portland author, Kathleen Lane. And they're going to be talking about anxiety on the page and as writers. And on Tuesday, May 10th, another launch event, Portland middle grade author Jen Reese with her second novel, Every Bird a Prince, in which a girl's quest to save a forest kingdom is intertwined with her exploration of identity. Tonight, we've got Oregon poets Linda Ferguson and Mimi Gurman reading from their new collections, which are both published by local press, The Poetry Box. Hi, Sean. We'll have a Q&A at the end. You can feel free to type questions in the chat and I'll read them, or you can click on the little blue hand icon that's in the reactions menu at the bottom and ask a question on the screen. Let's see, Linda's book is about the forest, and she's going to tell you all about that. And Mimi's book is called Beneath the Gravel Weight of Stars. So Linda and Mimi, take it away.
Thank you, Michael. It's such a pleasure to be here. My collection started just as a series of free writes on little scraps of paper, all inspired by the word green, which is my favorite color. And the title of the book, Of the Forest, refers to my family name that I was born with, which is DeForest, and literally means of the forest. So it's a blend of personal story. It's got some facts, but also fairy tale and feminism woven in there. The first poem I'm going to read is based on a true thing. I couldn't breathe when I was born, so no breath. Pale lungs like dried petals pressed between encyclopedia pages. Silence and a sterile room, ether, antiseptic, rubber gloves. First kiss with a waft of tobacco and mint. The doctor covers my mouth with his and inflates me. Not a pink balloon, a party decoration, but a web of ribs expanding round as a frog's call. Already a child of the forest, unfurling, first breath. This next poem was inspired by a fairy tale. It's a 3-part poem. And towards the end, I mention something called kissing whin. That refers to a gorse bush. Whin is the Scottish word for gorse. And there's a saying that when gorse is in blossom, kissing is in season. So that's a bit of a joke because in Scotland, gorse pretty much blooms year round. Hansel and Gretel and Johann, Part 1. As children, Hansel was a small bear, sun on his hair, melted caramel. Johann was a blue-eyed wolf, blinking bones and a cold, faded coat. I'm still the fox, darting across the page, searching for shadows between consonants and vowels. Look, my topaz eyes glow through fronds of metaphor and ink. Part 2. Here's the thing, the truth. No hunger, no stepmother plotting to lose us in the woods, just sandwiches and long summer days, a flat lawn rimmed with brittle bark dust. Hours before the parents would return from work, we knew the rules and still we crossed the highway, following the damp path to the creek. There was no witch. I've imagined one though, and what I'd have done if she'd laid one finger on Hansel's warm head. My little bear. I'd have pushed her in the oven, I would. I suppose I'd have saved Johann too, if necessary. But it was Hansel she'd want. Always Hansel. But there was no witch, just 3 children. Hansel reaching for a plump berry as Johann's teeth snapped. The marks on our skin long since faded to a smooth mask. And part 3 jumps ahead in time to adulthood. A visit to a priestess last week. She says, your finger will fall off if you keep winding the same old story around it. Of course, I say, and toss a coin in her cracked bowl. Sometimes I dream I push Johann into the fire. He was a beautiful child, innocent as dew. The truth? But there was also the drop of blood on my pink dress and the bones of Johann's words, the names he called me that afternoon, a boy's fistful of consonants. Sometimes I stare at my one photo of him, a stranger, nothing in common but a womb. What did I miss along the way? Did I neglect to share my bread with a fellow traveler? Maybe innocence is a fairy tale woven by shining spiders. Is this how the story ends? Me caught in a circle of bile and bitter tea? Love, sorry. One word would reverse the spell. May as well ask concrete to blossom into kissing wind. Nothing to do then but wait for wolf and bear and fox to reunite as a single constellation that flickers on the shortest summer nights. Also woven throughout these poems are some love poems for my husband. Love Song 2. Some things I love aren't green. Oatmeal, cinnamon, steam, juice of peach, single strawberry, easy breaths of blue bedroom, moon gray shoes with laces of velvet ink, scrape and burn of crow's caw, the gleam of Graham's onyx ring, dreamy depths of our daughter's azure paintings, and our son's red gold hair somehow spun from the straw of our jeans. But your voice, all sprouts and fronds and stirring seeds, laughing leaves, echo of bells over the hills, up and down and around we go, every morning the new green tips of possibility. Well, I'm just going to read 2 more poems, and this one is the same title as the book, Of the Forest, and it takes a trip back in time and back into the sort of dark world of fairy tales. Of the Forest. Maybe I was in my room after school. Maybe I was erasing my answer to a math problem. Maybe I was eating the tuna sandwich I couldn't swallow at lunch. Maybe I was on my feet, arms stretched, neck long, pretending I was a swan. Maybe I heard him approach. Maybe he slunk in like a wolf, smelling of bruises and bent nails. Maybe a small brown bear crouched beside him, smelling of wool and berries and warm earth. Maybe the wolf and bear said I was a bird. Maybe they said I should pluck off all my feathers for them, the plaid wool, the cable knit, the cotton. Maybe the wolf and bear circled. Maybe they smiled. Maybe I shrank. Maybe I froze. Maybe I said no and no and no. Maybe they shrugged and left me alone, safe, untouched, a trifle. Maybe I cowered on my rose print bed. Maybe I called for them to come back. Maybe they pretended not to hear. Maybe I wasn't worth the trouble. Maybe I was pampered, privileged, put up on a pedestal by an adoring father. Maybe I was weak, ugly, uncoordinated, prevaricating, a liar. Maybe I imagine things today. Maybe I think I'm the blur of a hummingbird's wings, but I'm really a crow's bristling beak, pecking at soggy French fries in the street. Maybe there's blood on my claws and carrion caught between my teeth. Maybe I'm in a cage. Maybe I built the cage myself. Maybe there are 300 locks on the door at the cage, but no key. Maybe there's one lock and 300 keys. Maybe when I'm hungry enough, I'll bite my way through the cage's iron bars. Maybe when I'm strong enough, I'll kick open its door. Maybe when I'm loud enough, I'll howl in the presence of bears and wolves. Maybe when I'm reckless enough, I'll ask to see their hidden scars. Maybe if I live long enough, I'll move among my fellow creatures with an easy breath and a long spine, inhabiting the forest that's theirs and yours and also mine. I'm going to end with another love poem, but this one is for everyone. Once I found myself in the dictionary, smart, pretty, quiet. Then I flexed and ran, snowflakes and chestnut burrs embellishing my fur, mouth open, panting. Now I am amphibious, ready to plunge nameless into new wet worlds, to shimmer and slip liquid bones through a crack in Moffitt rocks, then rise above clusters of plump sea grapes with a flick of luminous fins. And maybe you have become the tender flesh of a crab, or the ruffled white collar of the plumose anemone, or a kaleidoscope of phytoplankton that wears the iridescence of star-shaped confetti. Or on land, could we be the tip of the thorn on a crimson rose and the fat tail of a raccoon draped like a stole over the plum tree's arm? And maybe we're the plum blossoms too, our scent beckoning to honeybees. And oh, let us be the honey, the chemical reaction between nectar, enzymes, and evaporation. Come, let us grow organically from fragrant forest soil, or from the green pond floor, or in the endless field of gas and dust of the atmosphere. Let us flourish where we're planted, blown, or roam. Let us astonish ourselves with unimagined flowering. Thank you so much. And I'm just so excited to hear Mimi read. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. That was great. Mimi.
Yeah, can we just talk about these poems for a second? It was so good. Yeah, Sean wrote, "Oh yes, let us be the honey." That was beautiful. That was so powerful. That whole poem, and maybe, I don't know what is maybe called Deforest
Of the forest.
of the forest. Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry, I just had to just sit with that for a second. And then there was another line that's still reverberating in my head. It was like, maybe it was the bones of his words or something like that. It's a couple poems ago.
Yeah.
Your imagination is incredible.
Thank you.
So, hi, I'm Mimi, and the book that I wrote, Beneath the Gravel Weight of Stars, is about my work with unhoused people in Portland. And I just got back in like an hour and a half ago or so from being outside with folks. And I always start off my readings about my friends who are in these poems and the experiences that I've had working with them on the street and supporting them on the street. And the honor which it is to be able to be with them and hear their dreams, their struggles, their everything is what these poems are about. And maybe if I'm lucky, bringing some humanity to people who don't have the opportunity or can't take the opportunity or refuse to take the opportunity to get to know people who are on the street for whatever people's reasons are, and to humanize their lives. So I start off always with the dedication. Dedication. When the wood is too wet to burn, I will feed you melons and the songs of birds. To all my brothers and sisters trying to survive on the streets in St. John's, thank you for sharing your lives with me, your incredible courage and your love. May you survive another night. I love you with all my heart. These poems are for you. So the first poem is called The Crossing, and where the main camp that I support exists is at a place we call The Cut. And it's a place that crosses many of our larger streets. So I decided to call this The Crossing for its metaphor. Shadows cross the wired streets, the long dash of the horning day, the slow roll of the sidewalk suitcase, the step of the heavy cloud, deliberate, the lift of the wet sneaker, the sod of a prayer. She walks hunting for cans or love to feed the bear. Last night's sun was turned off. The moon had fled. Today, the forecast is too cold to be desperate. Beneath the unsnow of sky, one foot follows the other. Regrettably, anywhere is the graveyard. So some of these images come about from last night. This is why I like doing these, whether it's Zoom or in person, because again, personalizing the stories of what happens to folks on the street. Last night, a good friend of mine who lives at this camp saved about his 20th or 22nd person from overdosing. And it really threw him today because it was a bad one. It was really a close call. There have been a few people who have died that he's tried to save, but mostly people live as long as Narcan exists. And so when I say things like anywhere is the graveyard, this happens all the time and it doesn't need to be an overdose. This poem is called No House Row. And I grew up in Philadelphia in a little row house, which are common small houses for first families. And where I work on the street and volunteer my time, there's no houses. So I call this No House Row. The oatmeal stain of 6 a.m. on the maggot's grip of winter's fist. The dung heap canvas rustles on the hang of clothesline stench. Grease the replay of a lost good day. head torque into bending lonesome. Resting spine of pleading shade covers the heavy curl of the unrecognizable suit and the hide of swollen fingers. This is No House Row, where taut rhymes sorrow and dreams decompose like weeds lamenting, where grasses die tucked in the nestle of sleeting rain, the limp dick honesty of a gray sky off kilters your mask. Hungry is the sag. The heart is yesterday's buttered squash and gristle tendered in the slow cook of hours. This I wrote inside the Starbucks on Northwest 23rd. I work on Northwest 23rd, and this was in the wintertime, maybe a year or two ago. The other side of the coffee shop window. Oh, and this was written also during the time of meteor showers. And so I looked up meteor showers because I was aware that they were happening and they have such interesting names. And so I used the names of meteor showers instead of people in this poem. So each time you hear a word that doesn't sound like something that you might recognize, it's a meteor, it's the name of a meteor shower in place of a person's name. His back sags against the crush of crescent moon. Across the shatter, beneath the gravel weight of stars, the fisted arms of God pleat to his back, shoving him forward into the sidewalk cracks. Even the wheels of his cart are sullen, bent from the handling and the crash of cosmic debris. The bulldoze of shade across the seep, the concrete line, the drunken dodge of burning snowballs, the head limp, the turnaways. Ursids whisper in the door jam. Over on 12th and Johnson, Perseid hovels at the tracks. Lyrids stoke a paper fire. Is it a star-gown dance or the survival of lambs roasting round the spit where wrinkles and jowls grow from no surprises? The rise, the fall, shallow waters or high tide, his feet are always wet. There's a lot of talk that philosophizers out there about why people are on the street. And I don't care too much about people's philosophies about why people are on the street. This is a poem called Afflicted. This is about someone with mental illness and how society treats them. She held her breath as if she was holding God. When she could no longer stand it, when her eyes bulged like a blowfish on a hook, she exhaled and God let go of her. Sometimes she waited for angels to appear in the silence, not knowing that the silence was an angel appearing. The doctor said she was afflicted because she could not shut her eyes. She dreamed she never slept, which wasn't a dream. She was the color of all things, and all things were she. In the early morning hour, she would lay on the ground, feeling the moon tied tightly to her belly. She was its rock, tied to a tree. When the ground swayed, she laughed on her swing. As the moon exhaled, she tucked in the season's corners. She collected leaves and sometimes dust. She walked the shimmering trail of scales, tiptoeing the jangled light. She rubbed her skin in luminescent sand to feel whole. dipping her tilt into the lost lake. She wasn't certain of the footings, but she knew the notes of the wind. Yesterday, she met a young man who was high on living. He told her, no matter what, there is beauty. She thought he looked like a spirit. A truck blew its horn, startling her back into the stark. She inhaled. So some of the poems are like paintings to me. I just write these things, they look like a painting to me, or they feel like a painting. And so I decided to number them like people would number paintings. So number 19, Earth on Dry Ink. Waking tangled in the cling wrap morning sky, a sedentary rooster crows, a cold dog barks, squirrel hustles her nuts, buses croon on city streets, the pothole begs, a tugboat fights a Chinese barge, crows dock on wires, winter's emptiness flocks, cottonwoods expose the nest, worms earth themselves, the spate of day. This one is about a good friend of mine. This person in this poem was not him. He reminded me of my friend. And this happened on North Fessenden when I was driving home in St. John's, and I thought it was my friend, and I realized as I went by it wasn't, but it was. So this is a poem for my friend Butchie. North Fessenden. He wears the worn kilter and the right hand lean of the weight of a man. Torso bends heavy on his cane, waiting for a bus. He turns a page in the cracks of the sidewalk. Looks like Burroughs, but I call him St. John. The necktie of hustle smears the greasy air. Potholes breed poets in these parts, stammering like starlings, and he is syntax framed. This is the garden. He is wild chard. City workers paint the lines. Kicked up stones crack the windshields of the parishioners of the Church of Daylight Savings, where sun seeps into cracks and the doors are always locked. This poem is about another friend. And so people think that people can't do things when they're addicted to drugs. And this is a testimony. This poem is a testimony to the fact that no matter how high you are, if you are determined to do something, you can do that thing. And we were taking a vote in this village for what we wanted to do. And there were a group of people, and they were all needing to vote. And this friend saw me right before the meeting happened. And I said, hey, we're about to meet. Are you coming over? And he said, yeah, I'll be there soon. Well, the meeting began. And then he came over a little bit late, super high. And I was like, oh no, well, this is what happened. And it turned into a very, very beautiful, loving, very meaningful experience for me, because I learned a lot from this about love and the love of that community for itself and the love of that community with me in it. So this is called Noon in the Park. He dragged in his hand a three-legged chair, visible only to him. It was made of oak, or was it maple? The faded yellow paint was chipping and one leg had fallen off. He found it this way on the path. Slowly, like a tattered paper crane opening. He bent the tall sky beneath his thin body to sit on the invisible chair. He wobbled for balance. Crows spread out beside him to hold on for the steady. The squirrels came by to see the scene. The man on the invisible chair stood up, pushed the chair over, and yelled, "All I want is to have a shower," he said, "and to clean my balls." He stood on one foot, his other leg shaking like a crooked cane at the wind and the squirrels and at the sky. But then he bowed, a deep, quiet bow, humbling himself to the wet, muddy ground, and sat down once more on his chair made of air. This is another painting poem. It's called Number One, a metaphor in concrete. Trampled hay feeds the straw of gnarled teeth. Life is sparse and glued to ground. This tilted painting of the donkeys. Cracked laughter brays like a knees-up drunk. Water boils on the cantankerous song of parrots. The rattle of chortle on slop. There is a procession of night crawlers. Midnight rain pounds the worms. Time curls into winter's breath. Oregano remains the wild weed beneath the sleeping bag frieze. Fiddle ferns unfurl in praise of the briny sea and the sunset tongue on faraway fields. No God, but a blanket of wind. Heart bones hyperextend, unbalanced on the bow. How are you doing? These are sometimes heavy. You all doing okay?
Good.
Okay. I'll read a couple more. This one is called Day 50. I can't remember why. I think somebody told me they were sober maybe for 50 days. I'm not sure. And I just used that as the title of this one. Or maybe the camp was at day 50 in its survival numbers. I really can't remember. Day 50. She tucks her slink beneath the rickety socket. Inside these bones of horns, birds. She crawls into dreams past the man who stole the fallen star for a $20 bag. So this one I haven't read in my readings so far, and I'd like to. This is it's a poem called Number 13, River and Oil on Cement. It's in 3 parts, although I only express the parts by space. They're not called parts. Number 13, River, Water, and Oil on Cement. Her face exposed, a crustacean shadow, hair of spindling thorns, lips, splintered dusk, festering plums, back straight, a schoolhouse chair. Air dilates, swollen spores burst, fish float past, belly up, the slow drift, the current of chiseled weeds. Seeds move like maggots on the stink of a possum back, the yaw of prints in river mud. He folds the sun into creases, his legs starved, eyes dart, then suspend, hummingbirds. Umbrella fingers cradle threads of sky, thigh to thigh, legs uncross, knee to knee. His shoes are black, one lace is tied. The tide molts beneath his feet. His breath exhales exhaust into the sullen wheeze. Tilting on the step, the swaggered limb caught by the concrete of a curried earth. Skin color, cholera. I know you, he said. Can you bring me change? Dry leaves turn to dust in the moorings. Tinsel ringlets melt on sidewalk. Fingers bloat. Do I know you? He squints into the sun. And I'll read one more. This one's called Trying to Find You. And again, this poem is reflective of when we do get calls for missing people and their families think maybe they're somewhere in Portland, or maybe they're in North Portland, or maybe they left Portland and who knows anything. And there's a great pain that comes in the question of, have you seen this person? This is called Trying to Find You. Morning rise of sober sun. The cold, hard, hourly misers walk the slough, the chew of blue against the fold. Over there, disgrace hangs gently on the curtain wing. A bird, and then one more, root for bugs. A lonely hellebore prays to the ground. A child dreams that all the rabbits lost their color and are falling into holes. Snow drifts the sad. Now the sun, a mile high, walks the lines of the house as if it is still standing. Where the roof once heaved, now a sky crows. Hawks watch from the smolder of air. Speckled robins dissect a worm. Hydrangea heads frock in the almost of something. The iris limp inside cracked earth, and tomorrow called to say no. Thank you for
Lovely, thank you.
listening.
Oh, Mimi, that's so powerful.
Thank
And
you.
I could just listen to you read all night, even though it's a painful topic. I can just feel your love and appreciation, and you communicate, just like you said, was your aim to humanize people. It's just beautifully done. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a reading in town in St. John's here at Revolution's bookshop, and my friends from the camp came. And every time one of them walked in, I cried. And they sat around me, and they all had a book, and they were just reading this book of poems. And they said to me afterwards that they requested that I come and read at the camp. And so the next weekend I went and I read for them at the camp. And that was something that I'll never forget. Yeah.
The poems that are paintings are especially effective. Just your images are so strong. I can feel it, smell it.
Thank you. Emma, thank you for being here.
Yeah, do we have any questions?
No, that was great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Michael.
Yeah, you bet.
Mhm.
Thanks to
Yeah,
you both. It was really lovely reading. It'll be recorded, so I'll put that link up on our website later tonight, and I'll share that with Sean so she can pass it along to both of you, and you can share it with others.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Michael, may I ask if there is a way to allow us to download? I'm learning how to put these things on a YouTube page so that they're all together. as opposed to a link, because YouTube doesn't like that. If you have a download of this, if you could email that, it might be a huge file, so it can get put out through, I don't know. Me.
Yeah, it is a big file, so I'm not sure if I could be able to do that, but yeah, you might be able to download it from YouTube. I'm not really sure.
Okay, all right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
I just wanted to ask. I have a couple of shows on KBOO, but I don't know if your topics would really be appropriate for my shows on KBOO. But there's a couple of really good. I mean, I've done shows with poets, but the shows usually are related to queer topics. But I was wondering if you've been on KBOO, because it's a great resource, and we have a lot of shows that are focused on writers, and you both have really great reputations in the community. So I was wondering if you'd consider maybe kind of replicating your reading on KBOO sometime.
I would love to be. KBOO used to have me on quite often for the work that I was doing as an activist, and I would love to be on for bringing the community together with unhoused people. And usually, if I'm somewhere in person, I do bring unhoused people with me, especially around this book. So as far as that goes, if you would like to help facilitate that, that would be great. And Linda, I don't know how you feel, but I certainly would love that.
Yes, I'd be interested. For your book,
Well-
especially, I mean, just getting the word out is so important.
Okay, well, I'll just reach out to you both and see if I can find a good show to match you with, and see if we can get you on.
Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to see a connection made. Thanks.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you very much again to both of you. And hope you have a good night. And we'll let you know when that links up.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you, Michael.
You
Good
bet.
night, all.
Good night.
Good night.